Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Are you, as an XRP holder, at risk of losing your investment because Ripple does not extend exclusivity as it pertains to XRP? That was a question posed to Ripple CTO David Schwartz, who is also one of the co-creators of the XRP ledger. So I'm going to get into his response on that in a bit. Also going to talk about the IRS. They're coming for you. If you have not reported in the United States here, your transactions as it pertains to cryptocurrencies, they're actually now hunting down crypto wallets. IRS employees are being trained on that, so I'm going to share with you a little bit about that. And I have a brand spanking new story for you from the Daily Hodl about Ripple's plans utilizing XRP as a bridge currency and decentralized finance. So I'll be delving into all that and a little bit more. Before we get going here, though, if you would please gently tap that like button and go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel, the best channel in all the land, if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP. All right, let's get into the content here. First, I wanted to read this. There's a funny response to what I'm about to share with you. There's a tweet from Anthony Pompliano. I cover him fairly frequently on the Moon Lambo channel. I like the guy, and he's got interesting tweets regularly. And he does this weekly report where every single week, whatever in his mind are the biggest developments in the crypto asset class, he reports on them. He usually has 6 things, I think, maybe always 6. And the 6th one is always Bitcoin is not dead. But anyway, so here's the 6 for this week. Fed chair compared Bitcoin and gold. 2. Miami Dolphins accepted Bitcoin and Litecoin. 3. Blockstack is Reg A+ approved. 4. Binance launches margin trading. 5. Figure hits $85 million a month in loans. 6. Bitcoin still not dead. And he writes, we continue to march towards the inevitable. Do you remember when the MoneyGram deal went down? Major news, not just for XRP enthusiasts, but seriously, that was big enough news that it was major development for everyone in crypto. Whether or not you're pro Ripple or pro XRP, that was huge, undeniable, earth-shattering news in the world of crypto. And that week, in Pomp's 6 here, he did not include that, so he's definitely not particularly bullish on XRP, not very pro XRP. He's more of a Bitcoin maximalist. He hasn't used that word, but he has stated, I've heard him state, literally he thinks that you just need Bitcoin. That is it. And I think that's kind of a silly view because he's a sharp guy and I like him, but I just think he's dead wrong on that. But it was funny when that week when the MoneyGram deal went down here, people were retweeting his tweet for, his 6 bullet points for that week, but they fixed the problem, if you will, and they inserted in the 6 the MoneyGram deal. I think most people put it number 1 and then said, here we go, Pomp, I fixed this, and retweeted it out, which made me laugh anyway. But anyway, so there's somebody from the XRP community named Leonidas, and he responded to this, and he made point number 7, Pomp still ignoring XRP, and they put a little hail thing. He's just teasing him anyway. But yeah, it's true, Anthony Pompliano, he does not really like to talk about XRP. If it didn't exist, he wouldn't be sad. I'd be sad. But he would not be sad. Right? Now, moving on, here's a piece from CoinDesk. It is titled, IRS confirms it trained staff on finding crypto wallets. Now, I'm going to read just a little snippet of this for you, just so you're aware of it, and don't you dodge your taxes if you're in the United States. It's going to come back and bite you in the rear, guys. All right, so he starts out, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, IRS, may consider subpoenaing major tech companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft in search of taxpayers' unreported cryptocurrency holdings. That's according to a slide deck presentation from an IRS cyber training session, which details a number of ways the agency's criminal investigators might find potential crypto tax cheats. Issuance of a grand jury subpoena should be considered for Apple, Google, and Microsoft for the subject's complete application download history, says the slide deck prepared by James Daniels, the program manager for cyber crimes at the IRS's Criminal Investigation Unit. Each application's function should be explored to determine whether or not the application can transmit or otherwise allow transactions in Bitcoin, Daniels wrote. If so, it should be checked whether the app allows only peer-to-peer transactions or also transactions with crypto-related businesses. The deck was leaked on Twitter this week by a certified public accountant named Laura Walter. The IRS confirmed to CoinDesk that the slides were genuine. So I found that fascinating. And some people say that they like crypto because some are so blatant, especially in the Bitcoin community, if they're like truly maximalist, down with government, down with banks, all that stuff. And they say that they actually are kind of open that they're using cryptocurrencies to avoid taxes. Now, I'm not saying that's a high percentage of people, but I have seen that, and it is completely absurd. Pay your damn taxes, people. All right, it's not that big a deal. Just be an adult. It's perfectly fine. Otherwise, you're basically stealing from the rest of the people that live in your country. I'm just saying, man. Just saying. All right. Now here, this is from Bon Crip XRP. Perfectly answered by @JoelKatz in Quora, just in case anyone has any doubts about XRP and Ripple exclusivity. And so what he had here, it's a screen capture from a question that Ripple CTO David Schwartz was asked on the Quora platform, and it's the one that I was teasing at the beginning of this video here. The question is, are those who invested in XRP in possible danger of losing their investments as Ripple does not extend exclusivity to XRP on its network? I'm going to share with you his answer right now, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about kind of Ripple's bigger picture in terms of level playing field and how it pertains to XRP. So here's David's response. Exclusivity is precisely the wrong strategy to follow. Would Twitter benefit from an internet that you could only use to access Twitter? Of course not. That would be awful. Nobody would have a home internet access if they could only use the internet to access Twitter. Nobody would have internet-connected phones if they could only use the internet to connect to Twitter. Wi-Fi wouldn't exist if it could exclusively be used to access Twitter. Anyone whose strategy requires building an entire infrastructure just for their particular network or product offering is almost certainly going to fail. Asset exclusivity or network exclusivity is a huge obstacle to market success. That is incredible, and I've heard not just David, but many others within Ripple talk exactly along the same lines. And big picture, what they're really talking about here, at least in part, is a level playing field. And the reason being, as the entire asset class, the ecosystem is built out, it will draw more and more people in. And their point of view, and I think it's a fair point of view to have, is that with what they're building, they will be able to get their piece of the pie, and it's probably going to be a big chunk. That's what they're shooting for anyway. It's certainly, it's not something that's just going to fall in their lap. They're really going to have to work hard to make this happen. And so there's a lot that has to be built out. But specifically, what this makes me think about, you may be aware of Interledger Protocol. And I don't know a ton about Interledger Protocol. I should make it a priority to learn some more about that. But I can tell you, Interledger Protocol is not a blockchain. It is, not surprisingly, you may be able to surmise from what it's called. It is a protocol. The Interledger Protocol is a protocol, not a blockchain, and abbreviated ILP. And it helps with the interoperability of not just blockchains, but anything that's digitized and is of value. It can be transactions can be facilitated using ILP. That's what I'm trying to say. So it doesn't matter. You could digitize the value of Skittles and jelly beans. It doesn't matter. Just do whatever, and then ILP can move it. And it's a rather simplistic protocol, relatively speaking. They wanted to keep as few parameters on it as possible while keeping it functional. That was the whole goal. And then that, of course, again, and by the way, that was created by Ripple employees. And so you might think, well, while Ripple didn't create XRP, they're really pushing for a healthy XRP ecosystem. They want it to thrive for the long haul. Why would they make it easier for other cryptocurrencies to be easily transmitted across the planet? Isn't that kind of a scary proposition? And then they quickly realized exactly what David was talking about here. And then David used the analogy here in terms of the internet and how it would play out if you just want to build a website, but you wanted to build the internet so that it could only go to your website. Would that actually work? Well, no, of course not. And that's the point that he was making here. Well, similarly, he's saying as the ecosystem gets built out, you will onboard more people than they could build if it weren't an open ecosystem. That's the point that he's getting at. And so with the interoperability of ILP, that's just one of many things that they're doing to make it more appealing to transact. And so, when it comes to XRP specifically, the reason that Ripple is so confident with their positioning, there are a lot of reasons, but specifically in terms of what digital asset could best be utilized as a bridge currency for cross-border payments, They firmly believe, and they are correct, XRP is the best digital asset for that use case. They also have first mover advantage. It would be, if you're going to start a new coin and position it for that, and then try and gain market confidence, because understand the XRP, it's not backed by anything. It's based on the market confidence. Is it actually going to be utilized? That's what people like you and me are investing in, right? For me, it's based on the utility. For some, it's just overall speculation for the asset class. For me, I'm speculating based on utility. That's why I purchase XRP. And so, again, Ripple definitely sees it as being the best use for that. So they feel that the more people were brought into the ecosystem, the better for them. Absolutely. And they will tell you, hey, compete with us. Go ahead. That's fine. They're not against competition by any means. They absolutely have said that. And so they get the big picture. This is going to make their ecosystem grow faster, even if other people's ecosystems are growing at the same time. Let the other people have their piece of the pie as well. That's kind of the mindset. And so I truly appreciate the way the adult way that they're looking at it, frankly. And it requires a multivariate analysis, and they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. So anyway, next piece here, and this is from Peter Schiff. I just want to share this quick tweet with you. You guys know about Trump's tweet. It's been covered ad nauseum at this point. So if you don't know, just Google Trump Bitcoin. His tweet's going to pop up. They're like 3 in a row. Anyway, Peter Schiff, this is in response to that, and he tweeted out, I wonder if Trump's tweet about his not being a Bitcoin fan and his specific reference to unlawful behavior, drug trade, and other illegal activity is a precursor to a federal legislative crackdown on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Ignore this risk at your peril. Now, this is, by definition, FUD. Fear, uncertainty, doubt. FUD. That's absolutely what this is. He's trying to instill fear, and he is a gold bug. And so you can kind of question motives in that regard. I like Peter Schiff, I really do. But this is complete nonsense here. So the United States, because of that one tweet, we're not supposed to be afraid that after a decade of Bitcoin existing, after Jay Clayton stating that Bitcoin is a currency, even though there still needs to be regulation specifically drafted on after that, and after Jerome Powell, Fed chairman, stating that he doesn't see any sort of crypto asset becoming a global reserve currency. Despite all of that, the tweet, that's the one that we're supposed to pay attention to, and that tweet is supposed to fear us into selling all of our cryptocurrencies, and perhaps Peter Schiff would have us buy some of his yellow rocks that he sells. Perhaps he would like that. Bunch of nonsense. Just had to say my quick 2 cents on it. That's it. Right? And check this piece out. And I got this from Jack the Rippler today. This says, boom! Ripple executive unveils strategy to transform cross-border payments, boost XRP, and grow blockchain ecosystem. Everyone will use XRP! Exclamation point. All caps. I like it. I like the enthusiasm. So this piece that he linked to, tweeted out, is the Daily Hodl piece that I cited at the beginning of the video from today. And this is titled, Ripple Executive Unveils Strategy to Transform Cross-Border Payments, Boost XRP, and Grow Blockchain Ecosystem. So there are a couple snippets I want to read, and then there are two somewhat lengthy quotes that I want to read from you so that I can fully communicate the ideas that I wanted to get to you as it pertains to the perspective from this particular Ripple employee. But anyway, the piece starts out. Ripple is revealing more on its multi-million-dollar plan to grow the digital assets ecosystem and bring distributed ledger technology to the masses. At a recent roundtable hosted by Amazon Web Services in New York, the director of strategic growth at Ripple's investment arm Spring offered a look at the company's overall strategy. Vanessa Alexandra Pestrito says Ripple is pushing to grow the blockchain industry at large in addition to boosting cross-border payments and use the world's third largest cryptocurrency by market cap, XRP. Now here's one of the quotes from this that I want to read from, and this is again from Vanessa, Ripple employee. From an industry standpoint, we believe that there's going to be multiple ledgers that will be used in different verticals. We don't think it's just to be one to serve them all. So when we take a look at different investments we'd like to make or people we'd like to partner with, we are looking at the infrastructure layer and seeing who also has the alignment of values and view of interoperability. I recently made an investment in Agoric, and this is a secure smart contract platform that I can integrate into the layer ones. other layer one, sorry. And this is going to allow for the ability to eventually make cross payments into other chains, but that's deep and way ahead in the future. But that's how far ahead we're thinking. So absolutely, Ripple, whatever stage of this process you want to say that they're in the crawl, walk, run process, they are thinking about in-game type of things. They're thinking extremely far out, and they're getting their hands, their little tentacles on every aspect of blockchain that they possibly can within reason, as long as it aligns with their values. So I'm sure they're thinking of synergy, which is a very fun business word, perhaps the most fun business word that there is, synergy. And so then down here, this is I didn't finish the one quote yet. Actually, I don't think. Yeah, the other one was down here. So anyway, moving on. So here's the rest of it. The next area is decentralized finance. We've been spending a lot of time there at Spring, and taking a look at where there might be some opportunities for new decentralized BitMEX platforms, or what might a new derivatives exchange look like. We've also been spending time looking at new synthetics, and some of the earlier DeFi, which is decentralized finance companies, have created a nice guild. And so we've been closely working with them and seeing how we can be of service to help them progress along, because we believe it's going to be huge, and that we're best collaborating with them up front. And then, of course, payments. We also have someone on our team dedicated to seeing where XRP payments can be of use, working with different merchants as well as consumer platforms and apps to see where there could be a good opportunity for us there, right? And then she goes on, and and there was I don't know if you guys saw this video from, it's probably at some point within the next week, but XRP blogger Hodor, he was recently talking about decentralized finance and what that might look like for XRP, and he gave an interesting example that I hadn't heard cited before. But the concept was essentially a loan without a bank. In this particular instance, it doesn't mean the banks would go away in terms of loans. I still think banks are going to have staying power as it pertains to loans. But decentralized finance can still make sense too. But the idea that he floated was basically XR being put up as collateral so that you could get a loan in terms of United States dollars. And it was an interesting concept because it does take out the middleman, and technologically it certainly can be done. The only point that I made on that front, this is just one example of decentralized finance, mind you, but that's the one off the top of my head because of Hodor. But I still tend to think in terms of, if you're going to put up XRP up for collateral with the volatility, does it make sense to do that? I don't know if it does now. Would it down the road, perhaps? That said, I do know loans are kind of made out in that way. I've actually seen it the other way, where like people they're owed United States dollars, but then given crypto, I've seen it the other way around too. So, people can find ways to make it make sense for them, I suppose. But I still think with less volatility, you're going to see more of that activity. I suppose that's really the point I'm trying to get at. But moving on here, so Vanessa, she said, what was she asked here? She was asked. Or she was commenting on. As far as customers that are transacting with the retail side of the world here, if the end customer, if you're a developer or whatever you are, should you use the term blockchain? And here's what she had to say about that. Depending on the vertical, we've had some discussions, not just internally, but with some investor partners, and we would say just don't mention it, as in don't mention blockchain. For gaming, for instance, in some cases, you're not going to attract somebody to a new game by saying, hey, we have a new blockchain game. No, you have a game, and it's awesome, and it happens to be running on blockchain. You'll be able to have the assets that you're building in the game or actually own them, and that's what you should be marketing. That you're going to have true ownership of your new sword or shield, or maybe one day you can make an NFT, non-fungible token, out of a potion. Wouldn't that be fun? So things like that. On the finance side, if you're putting forward decentralized finance, new products and derivative synthetics, then you are going to go ahead and be much more transparent on that to the professional audience you're going with. But on the consumer side, I think there has to be an alignment of incentives and people getting what they want, because with consumers, there's a lot of competition to get towards them. So in a lot of cases, you just may not have to mention it to them. And that's absolutely the case. And that always makes me think, especially even as it pertains to XRP being used for cross-border payments, the end user doesn't have to have any clue that XRP is being used in the plumbing behind the scenes whatsoever. All they're going to know is suddenly that they can conduct cross-border transactions at a much lower cost, and they're pretty much instantaneous. You get your payments moved from one country to another, from one fiat to another, converted, pretty much in real time. And that, which is astonishing, of course, but it's just always been amazing to me that you can do that without mass adoption by actual consumers. You just have to have businesses and developers get it, and then of course there are speculators like us, and most of us, I'd argue, probably aren't even actually using XRP in our own daily lives. You do with XRP Tipbot, and there's some other places, and that that may change over time as the ecosystem is built out. It's just still, in my mind, really such early days. But really, we're just holding it because we know that businesses are going to use it, and that's where the speculation comes in. That's what the ecosystem is intended to look like. And I was actually thinking about making a video on that topic at some point in the future, just like what was the intended ecosystem from inception? What was this supposed to look like? Because I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I've done a good bit of research on it. So maybe I'll delve into that some other time further. But let me get to this last piece here, and then I'll close out the video here. This is a tweet from XRP Crow. He puts together all sorts of infographics, and I've cited him in a couple of recent videos here. I like this one, so I wanted to share it with you. This looks like, I believe it's a brand new one. It is just say 2019 on it. But XRP Ledger, and it's got 6 points, and I'll just read them to you real quick. It's permissionless, open network that everyone can join. Successful ledgers closed, 48 plus million. Processes 1,500 transactions a second. Worldwide 1,000 plus nodes. A team of 200 plus engineers and developers. 99.999% uptime in 7 years, which is rather impressive. I'm pretty confident in the XRP ledger. How about you? But that's all I got for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea.